Hello everyone and welcome back to JB's Total Gaming, where today we're taking a look at the Rubico Prime. It certainly is a pretty weapon, but is it worth building? Whether you're going to go and get the relics and build it yourself, whether you're going to buy plat or do the Prime access, is this a weapon worth getting? So first we're going to talk a little bit about potential builds for this weapon, then we're actually going to do a little bit of a review of the weapon itself and see it in action. So we're not going to spend too much time on the build for the weapon. A lot of the builds for the weapons, you're going to see these mods. Now we're building for corrosive here, assuming that we're going up against a Grenier, and normally I would leave this here. The Grenier, their toughest enemies except for the Bombard, take 75% more damage from corrosive, and this is enough damage to kill most other enemies in the game. Now if we're doing like real long elite sanctuary onslaughts or something like that, maybe that's not necessarily the best. But if we're doing, say, a lengthy mission against the Corpus where we're going to stay for an hour, then okay, at that point maybe I want to change my mods up. But most of the time, I just am going to leave this on unless I'm going against the Eidolon. If I'm going against the Eidolon, then I'm going to change this over to do radiation damage. The Eidolon takes more damage to radiation. Now, this last slot's where it's going to be really interesting. Now, Serration, it's pretty much standard. Now, when it comes to Point Strike and Vital Sense, these are also pretty much standard. A lot of things improved about the Rubico. This is a similar weapon to was already many people's, including mine, favorite sniper rifle in the game. Base damage improved, reloads a little bit quicker. You're still not going to be able to reload the weapon and keep your combo multiplier going unless you add a reload mod. However, this is a weapon that the combo multiplier starts at your second hit, and in general use it within the clip itself. That is a 5 round clip to it. So I really like the critical chance, though. That's the big thing about this weapon. I believe the previous one could get up to 75% maybe when using Point Strike. I don't remember exactly what it was. I believe it was in 70. So 95%. We're almost at 100. We're not quite getting orange crits with this. Now, we can get orange crits with this build. We'll talk about that in a second. But that, to me, is a big thing because this weapon doesn't have the hugest base damage compared to some other sniper rifles. However, the crit multiplier is really high. So I think these are pretty much standard. The element is going to be whatever you want to build on it. I really like using split chamber and vigilante armaments combined. That gives us 150 multi-shots. So we're always firing 2 shots, and 50% of the time we're firing 3 shots. Now, again, you can build the weapon however you want. However, on most builds, you're going to see these and then whatever elemental combo that you're using. Now, what are you going to use in this last slot? If you're going against the Eidolon, I actually suggest using cold damage and just adding cryo rounds maxed out, obviously, to the build. Rhyme rounds, we're not worried about the status chance. This weapon does have an improved status chance over the Rubico, but in general, we're not shooting enough bullets with sniper rifles to really build for status. So I suggest using cryo rounds and then obviously radiation against the Eidolon. Now, there are some other things that we can do, obviously, with this build. Now, let's talk about heavy caliber. Now, I have used heavy caliber on the Rubico before. I used it Eidolon hunting. Heavy caliber is a good mod. It gives you a lot of damage. However, it really hurts your accuracy. Now, because of the high accuracy of the sniper rifle, your main shot is going to stay pretty true to where you're aiming. However, your multi-shots, the 1 or 2 multi-shots that you have, are going to go askew with heavy caliber. Now, if you're fighting the Eidolon and you aim for the center of the joint, oftentimes you will still hit, sometimes you won't. It's really personal preference. If you want to do the most damage possible, heavy caliber is something that you can add on to this build. However, the multi-shots stray enough that I use it for a while. I don't hate it, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to build for. Another thing you can build for on any crit weapon, you can use Hunter Munitions to get a 30% chance for a status proc. We have 95% critical chance, so we're going to be procking a decent number of slash statuses. This is good. You're going to see a lot of builds using Hunter Munitions. I don't know. I like using it on a weapon that fires more often. This is a powerful build. Using this is good. It's just my personal preference. I don't really use it. Now, you can add another element depending on what you're going against. Technically, if you're not adding an element that is going to do increased damage against the enemies you're going against, you technically can throw on Crash Course maxed out because there's so much impact on this weapon. If you're not accounting for additional damage due to damage types against certain enemies, I believe Crash Course, if I did the math correctly, adds a little bit more damage than another element. Obviously, I don't have this maxed out, and it's not what I'm using, but it is an option if you want to do that. Obviously, Argon Scope is another option as well. I don't have Argon Scope. It goes for what, 300 plat? I'm not even sure. I don't have it. I'm not planning on buying it, but that is another potential thing to use in order to increase the the critical damage. And here's the deal. Critical is what this weapon really is meant for. Again, low base damage compared to sniper rifles, but really high crit chance. So anything you can do that with is really nice. And obviously, if you have that, you can go ahead and put that on this build. Bladed rounds is another potential choice. So maxed out, this will do 120% critical damage while aiming after a kill. If you are using this weapon for regular, everyday, you're using it for sniper-only sorties, things like that, bladed rounds is a good choice. I tend to be someone that doesn't spend a bunch of time swapping stuff around based on what I'm doing. I like to build general, decent builds, if you will. Again, if I'm going against the Eidolon, obviously I'm going to swap out and get radiation damage. But in general, I actually use Hammer Shot on this because I really like the critical damage. This is what this weapon's good for. You can see we go from 6.6 to 8.4 damage. So this is going to do more damage than a... We're not worried about the status so much. It does increase our status chance. Our status chance is getting up near 50%, which is fine. But really, we want the critical damage here. And adding to that multiplier is really going to help. And we're going to do critical 95% of the time. It's every time we don't roll a 1 on a d20, basically. So this is the build I'm using. Again, build however you want to build it. This last option slot is really open to a lot of things. I'm personally using Hammer Shot because it's something that's good for pretty much any content I'm bringing it to. So let's talk about the weapon itself and if it's actually worth building. Alright, now when talking about what is your favorite sniper rifle, if you really prefer the Vectis Prime, or if you really like bringing the Lanka, even with its charge up just because of how much damage it does, this isn't necessarily going to change your mind and suddenly become your favorite sniper rifle. This was already my favorite sniper rifle though. Why do I like it? Well, while, again, you're going to lose your combo multiplier after you reload because it's 2 seconds and 2 seconds that you're going to lose it. However, this is such a usable weapon. It fires very quickly. It has low enough recoil, but by the time you can fire again, you don't need to adjust for the recoil. It does enough damage, it's going to take out pretty much anything on the star chart. And while you will lose that multiplier, you'll build it up very quickly. And you can see we've got an orange crit there because of Hunter Munitions does give us a 5% chance to upgrade our yellow crits to orange crits, which is nice. So for average everyday doing stuff with a sniper rifle on a sortie or just using it because you want to use it, I really like this weapon because of its usability and because of all the upgrades. We're upgraded pretty much everything about this weapon, especially that crit chance, so we're getting crits almost all the time. I really enjoy using this weapon. If I'm going to bring a sniper to a regular thing, it's what I'm going to bring. Now, again, if you've tried a regular Rubico and you really prefer the Vectis Prime or something like that, or even the Vectis, it's not going to change your mind. This weapon is worth building if you already like the Rubico. If you're not sure what your favorite sniper rifle is, if you've tried different ones out, then I definitely suggest, trying this out. You can do a lot with it. It also works well against the Eidolon. Now, if you're doing a full Chroma build and all this, and you're using the amp to increase your damage, and you're doing 900 some more damage because of your build and all that, you can one-shot limbs on the Eidolon. I didn't really max this out. I wasn't really playing as efficiently as possible against this Eidolon, but it does work for the Eidolon as well. Now, if you still want to bring the Rubico because it's entirely elemental for the Eidolon and it potentially does more damage overall, you can certainly do that. However, with the right build, you can still one-shot with this weapon. Obviously, that's not what I'm trying to do here, but it's still pretty effective. If you want to build one weapon overall, I suggest building the Rubico Prime because I would have suggested the Rubico in the first place. If you just don't like it, then it's not going to change your mind. But if you were at all right with the Rubico, really build this weapon. It is a huge upgrade statistically on what I already think is the most usable and versatile sniper rifle out there. So there you go. There's a look at the Rubico Prime. I think it's a great weapon for its versatility. You can use it for just about anything, including Eidolon hunting. I think it's simple and fun to use, and overall, unless you hate the Rubico, build it because it's such a good upgrade. I think you're really going to enjoy using it. And overall, I think the Gram Prime is great, this is great, and, well, Chroma Prime is alright, but if you enjoy Chroma already, then it's pretty sweet. This is a pretty interesting update as far as this current access pack of Prime stuff. And like I said, the Rubico Prime is not only pretty, but it's a great improvement over the other one, and I really suggest checking it out. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.